So as we were talking about yesterday, the main packages of Servlet, right? So there are two different important packages which we have, which is Servlet the package, the main package, which under which all the Servlet packages will be created, and then we have specific to our HTTP, which is .http star here. So these are the packages for specific to HTTP. So we are more interested on these things because we are not going to any other protocol as of now. We are not doing any FTP or anything. We will be more concentrating on HTTP protocol, and we have to use Java extended. It's a extended Java package where you'll be getting all the Servlet APIs, right? So let us create a small Servlet now, and we'll see the life cycle once we create the Servlet, right? So Servlets always should be created in source folder, or even if you create a Servlet at the top of a project, right, it will go and sit in source folder. Let me create one Servlet. Now it is asking for some package, don't worry about that. Just give Servlet as my first something. Servlet. First Servlet. What next? Now here this will give you the URL mappings. The second thing is something which is URL mapping here. Now Eclipse will help you out with this URL mapping. This is nothing but when you are actually calling the Servlet from your web page, right? So what is the context you want to use? Is this URL mapping, right? And when I do next, now this screen is something let it load. Okay, so this screen, right, is something where you have to define what are the methods you want. Now we'll be discussing about this method. So whatever methods you can see are called as HTTP methods, right? These are init, destroy, and all, right? So these are the sample, I mean all the methods whatever you want. So basically we will go with each and every method will be called at one or other time. Like you have init, you have destroy, you have something called service and all, right? We'll be getting into these things once we just see the basic Servlet. Now what basically we will be working mostly is to post a bouquet, right? You can just keep them open and just say finish. Right? Now you can see these are sample Servlet which is being created, right? You can see it is being created in source folder, which is myself, right? Now here there are a few things which are very important. Now you can see here that each and everything. So in Servlet there are some rules. The first rule is a class. Even this Servlet is a base class which we have seen before. But the rules of Servlets are, the first rule is that a Servlet must and should and must extend any of the Servlet class, right? So basically, as we are looking into the HTTP protocols, we are going more specific of HTTP Servlet, right? And every Servlet should have a default constructor. This is very important. Every Servlet should have default constructor because we are not going to create an object, right? We will not be creating an object of Servlet. The web container of Tomcat, right, will create this object of Servlet because it has to invoke different methods like doGet or doPost, which are called as a web methods or HTTP methods, right? For that you have to keep a default constructor. But this is again very important one, right? So these are the two different rules which you have, and yes, you can actually, whatever methods you want, you can go ahead with the implementation of that. You can do that. Even if you don't have, doesn't matter. If you want, you can just type in, right? You will get those methods, which are again overridden methods from your HTTP Servlet. Okay? So, and all the methods are protected methods. All the methods like doGet, doPost, everything are protected methods inside your HTTP Servlet. So this is a sample HTTP Servlet which we have. Now, here, if you can see this, So do get is a main method and do post is a main method where we'll be handling a request and sending a response back. Right? You can see in do get and do response there are two arguments here, which is HTTP servlet request. Right? Again it comes under, you can see here, our HTTP package, and we have HTTP servlet response. Now why do we have this? Is, let us say some page, some HTML page or some other page is calling our servlet. Right? Then the request will be triggered at this part or this part. We can mention which method to call, either to call do get or do post or do put or do trace or do delete, which we have I just shown. Right? So based on the request from one page to this servlet, right, that request will be handled over here. Right? This is a servlet request object. In the same way, from this servlet, if you want to go to some other page or JSP or some other servlet, we have to use our servlet response, which is an again HTTP object, right, whose variable response. So those are the two different variables which you have, and you can see here every method in HTTP servlet are protected methods. Right? Only in the same package you can just use them directly. Right? So that is what is a basic servlet methods which we have. Right? Now before running into this, right, so let us look into some life cycle of servlet. So life cycle of servlet is basically very simple. So whenever servlet starts or whenever there is an excited servlet object, right, the first method being triggered is init, and then its service method, right, and then its destroy. Right? So these are the main methods which forms the life cycle of servlet. Now here we have to understand something. So whenever web container starts, so web container is nothing but a server or Tomcat, let us say. As such, as we're taking, we're understanding Tomcat, let us say Tomcat. Now this init method is something which is triggered for the first time when the servlet starts, right? So servlet starts can be in two ways. First way, whenever you start your Tomcat or any web server, your servlet will be started, and at that start point your init method will be called. Or let us say your Tomcat is started and the first request, whoever is trying to access our website for first time, for that request your init method will be called. Init method will be called only one time, right? Then there will be multiple requests, right? You will be getting so many requests, but your first request will excite the init method of servlet. So once init method is initialized, then immediately it will go to the service method. So this method is something which will be called for every request. I was talking about threads, right? Multiple threads will be created. So those things are being generated in this part, which is service part, right? And even your destroy is something which is called only once. So whenever you want to shut down your servlet or your website, right? That's the first case. Second case is, let us say, if you leave your website idle, so there are no requests you are getting to Tomcat in order to access this website, right? Then what happens? Our Tomcat will make the servlet down. So whenever servlets come down, which means the destroy method will be called, right? So those are the different life cycles of that. Remember, init will be called only once, destroy will be called only once, which is at the end and at the start, right? And the service method is something which will be called for each and every request. Every request triggers service method, and inside this service method, all the different methods called do get, do post, do trace, all the other things will be called internally by creating a separate thread for each and every request. That is what we have a complete life cycle of a servlet, right? So yes, each and every class, whatever you want to make it a servlet, it should extend at least one of these, either a servlet interface, right, or servlet class, or generic servlet class, right, or your HTTP servlet. Right? So all these are interconnected again. Now generic servlet is something which is extending servlet class, main servlet, and HTTP servlet is something which is extending generic servlet. Right? Now, so generic servlet and servlet class are something which you can use for if you are extending your servlet, if you're extending your servlet class. Now whenever I'm talking about extending, right, it means this. We extended HTTP servlet, right? You can also go for some generic servlet. You can also go for generic servlet. But the only thing is you have, so this generic servlet will have some other methods. Anyways, it also have got something called get and other methods. But this generic servlet is not specifically for HTTP. This is something which is across. You can use this across any protocol, right? But for web application, the main protocol which we'll be using mainly is your HTTP servlet, right? So that's why we'll be going for HTTP servlet. That's the main reason. So even in Eclipse, whenever you create a servlet, right, it will extend by default. It will extend your HTTP servlet, right? That is what it is. But yes, internally, HTTP servlet is being, extended by the class generic servlet, and generic servlet is internally using servlet, which means whatever method you are using to get and all, right, internally it is using the get, post, whatever methods you are calling from your super classes. That is how the HTTP servlet is being derived into the. Now we also call this servlet as something called non-UI script, right, or non-UI based program, right? Because in servlet, right, you are not designing anything. It's a complete script program or a program which where you can actually you are designing some protocol handler and protocol response handler, right, where you're actually moving from getting the request and designing it out and throwing it out to the web page. That is what you're doing, but actually you're not designing. That's why it is also called as a non-UI based program, right? And in order to handle this protocol, right, for specific protocol, that's why we go for HTTP. Right? So that is what we have over here. Right? Yeah. Then let us go to this part now. Okay. So now here, so do get and do post, right? So if you don't mention any method, or if you directly run this, right, the default method which will be executed is do get. Now again, as I said, this do get method is something which is called again from service method. You can also go for init method if you want. You can see here there is a init method. There are two different init methods you can see, which is override method in generic servlet, and if you want to get the servlet config, you can get that. So this was the one init config which was introduced from 1.5. It was not there before. Init init method. So before 1.5, you have only this, which will accept your servlet config. Now if you go for this, right, you can see this is calling your init. Now you can just say this out of, let me say, init call. Maybe you can just make this up. Now here, so once the servlet is up, which means the init will be called, right? In the same way, you also have something called service. Service method, you have two things you can see here, which is a service method, which is of HTTP servlet, right? And you also have direct servlet request and servlet response. These are something which will be triggered from your generic servlet. So we are more interested in this service, right? So let me just say that just alpha service is called, right? So we are just moving into this, so that sometimes this service method, right, will be triggered once you get a first request, right? Not always when you start your servlet, right? And yes, you are in do get. Now in do get, you can just say this out. Yeah, you can always try to use try catch so that you don't have any issues in that, right? And just sys error dot sorry, e dot, we have get message. Now in here, let us say this out, let me just say I'm in do get method, right? Now here in this do get method, we'll just see the sample response how we can create out of, so that we can actually show it in our web page. Now here, so you have one HTTP method called toolCreator. This is a class which you'll be using mostly if you want to directly show something from Servlet. Let us say out is equal to now. So this do get will be triggered when you get the request, etc. Now here what we are trying to do is we are trying to send some response, which means we have to use HTTP server response tag, which means we'll be using something called response RSP dot. We have something called getWriter. So this getWriter will give you access that whatever you write something here will be printed automatically in the page. We'll do that. Now here, let us say we are doing something called out dot. We have something called write. Okay? Write or something. Okay. Hello world. Okay. That is what you are writing. Right? Now here you have written a simple thing here, which is we just said I'm in Google and you put print writer to directly paste something into your page. Right? This is something which you are taking it as a response. Right? Fine. Now here, let me run this up. So running is again something which is very interesting here. Now let me just compile this. Now here, you whatever change you do to Servlet, you have to compile it back again, right? But yes, if you are actually using a Java or JSP file, right, you don't have to compile the JSP. A JSP is something just same as like HTML with the JSP components, right? Now here, let us see how we can actually deploy this. Now we can deploy in 2 ways. If you run this project directly, right, if you right click and just run on server, here you can see as our application is something which is a web-based application, right, it will directly give you the option to run on server, right. Let me click on run on server. Now immediately you can see it will give you this option that so which server you want to run on. I said you can actually configure multiple servers as you want, right? But here you can see as we have configured only one Tomcat server, that's why it is here. Now you can always use the server when running this project. You can just select the tab and click next, and you can see the Servlets project which we have triggered went from available to Servlets, right? You can just click on finish. Now what it does is, you can see here it is starting the Tomcat automatically, right? Now you can see whenever I go to servers, right, you can see here the Servlets is being deployed. Don't worry about this, we'll just solve this part, right? You can see this part is which is the Servlets project is being deployed here. That is what it is, right? Now here let's look what exactly is happening here. Let me open a browser. It all depends on all the configurations we're doing. After the rest, we'll definitely not about the QR. So have you changed anything here? Let's go for a very simple clean the project. You can see here init call, get service call, get service call. For every request you can see the service will be called. Get service is called, get service is called. Then if the service is called, why this is not being printed here, that is not. So this should get printed into
Yeah,
Ujjwala? Yeah, you have to do one more thing. Yes, Ujjwala?
does that init method should be the init method should be public or protected?
See, there are two different init methods. One is public. You also have one more init method, which is protected. Right? You also have one more init method.
But just 2 minutes before you said that we should have all protected methods in Servlet.
No, I didn't say we should. It is like, all the methods, whatever HTTP methods you have in HTTP servlet are by default protected. If you are overriding something like you have to override the same signature, right? You can't change that. Right? Okay. Here. So just missed something here. Now here you have something called content type. You have something called content types. Now this content types is nothing but, so here we just saw something like, we tried to do something called, we wanted to paint something on other page, right? So if you want to do that, you have to set your content type for response, which is like, you have a response dot, we have something called set content type. There are many content types, like I'll give you the list. So as of now, we are talking about something called text or HTML. So these are the content type. You have content types like your text or HTML, right? In the same way, if you just want to show the plain text, you have text hyphen, you have plain, right? You also have something called application / MS Word, content type. You also have images, JPEG. You also have something called application PDF, right? So these are some content types which you, based on your requirement, right? You can just get these content types. If you are actually setting it from your servlet, right? Because we are trying to directly paint something on page, right? Which means in a servlet you have to set what context you are actually going to do. Now my current context is I may show some text or some HTML. Anyways, I am not writing any HTML here, but if you write that, so you are giving your servlet a scope that whatever you write can also be translated to HTML. That is what is your content type. Right? Let me run this again. Right? If you ask for restart, yes, do that. Not an issue. Why is this coming up? Right? Init call, services call, I will do that. Yes, it's perfect. Specify what is not allowed. Does it mean? Yes, this is a very simple servlet. Let me create one more servlet here. Doesn't matter, it happens always.
Hello?
Hello? Yeah?
Hello, Suraj?
Yeah, Jula?
Yeah, the audio, we lost the audio.
No, I'm not
I
speaking.
couldn't hear
Actually,
what you talked earlier.
I was not speaking actually. I was just looking into why we are getting that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't worry, yeah. So we have your response dot. Let us say set content type. Okay. text /html and string title out is equal to something like response dot you have to get your title. So now this is something which you have clean up. Okay, just say put this out. Okay, we got it. I don't know what was the problem with the previous one, but that's fine. You can see we solved it now. Where you can see that you have called the direct method. Oh, it was caps. Doesn't matter. Let me copy the same thing and paste it in my web page now. You can see hello world. Now it just painted that over here, right? Now here, as I said, your HTML, right, will be compatible with all the HTML tags, etc. Right? Now, if you are using any HTML tag, let us say I'm using some bold here, B tag. I hope you guys have some knowledge on HTML, right? Because for web, it is something which comes under web designing, right, or your HTML tags. Now here, let me go back and refresh this. And you can see it got bold. Right? So that is what, if you are actually setting the content type of your response, which means with respect to that response, your writer will work. Right? Now here, let's create back the two things, which is init. Let me create init method at least. Right, init overridden method, config, and just say this is out of and init. Right, now you can see here in server, right, just watch out here, it says synchronized. Now whatever you change, let us say you're just saying it as I'm in init method, right, and if you can see here, let me just remove the toggle. Now if you can see here, when I save this, right, it will automatically save, and you can see it republishes, right. The Tomcat will help you to build all the classes again, and it will republish into a Tomcat server, right. That is what happens by your Eclipse. Now if I run this again, or you can directly go to your browser, just select and you can do it. Right. Now here you can see, let's get back here in console, you can see I'm in init method, right. The first thing whatever called is init method. Now let's get back and see this point, which is I was talking about the life cycle, right. We'll just see what does this mean. Now let us go and create one variable here. Let me create one variable, which is private int movie. Let us say I'm creating it as request count is equal to 0. Let us say first. Now I said this, whenever init is called, this init I said will be called only once. Let us say I'm just saying request count is equal to 0, because if init is called again and again, the request should go to 0, right. Now let's go back to do get, and now here let us say I'm increasing my request to 1. Now let us say hello world, and let us say pr, which is fake, and just say current request count. Yes, let me just take this. So I'm just taking it out. Now what you have to do, obviously you have to recompile this, and if possible just go to servers and restart. So restart, I've already told you how to restart. You can just click on restart and go back to your this. Now when I run this, you can see the request count is 1 first, right? And when I refresh this, you can see the request count increases, right? Why? Because for each and every request, as I said, separate thread is created, right? Which means only the service methods are called, and inside service methods, right? So service method will be called through this, either do get or do post. But init method is called only once. You can see here, right? When I run this again, right? When I run this again you can see the counter changes. Now let me just restart my Tomcat. Now, which means I want to shut down my web application, right? Which means I want to shut down my server. Now how can I do that? So you can either restart the Tomcat server or you can just stop it out, right? It will stop and you can start your server. Now this will start the server, right? It says started now, right? Now let's go back and see what happens here. Now you can see again request came to 1, right? Which means whenever you restart your servlet, right, which means the complete servlet container will be restarted and all the threads and everything will be collapsed and it will start a fresh pool to accept more requests. Now you can see once I refresh this, right, if I'm refreshing this, right, now you can see that let me press F5. Now you can see as number of things increases, the counter. Yeah, that is what it is. That is why.
Srina?
Yeah, Johnny?
Yeah, is there any reason why you are using?
Is there any reason why? Hello, Johnny. I didn't get that question. What is that? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Johnny. Yeah, please tell me. What is that?
Yeah. Which browser you are using?
I'm using Mozilla. No, you can use anyone. That's fine. Okay.
Anyone, right? Okay.
That's fine. I'm just using something because I basically use this mostly. That's fine. You can just go to IE, right? Paste it up, and yeah, that's fine. Now here you can see again in this. Let me just show you that. What happened to this? Okay, so let us see both the browsers. You will see that these things will be in sync. Now you can see here the number of requests which we have got now is 26, right? Now here let us refresh for more. Let us say there are 36 requests, 38 requests as such. Let's get back here. Now we didn't use this page, right? That's why there are 26. Now if I refresh, you can see it will be in sync. Which means you're actually working in 2 different machines, right? Which means there are already 38 requests. Now you can see that okay, this is something which now this is a way actually how you can actually calculate how many requests you have got per day, right? Maybe you can use a very simple way which I've shown, but yes, there are some complicated methods which you can actually get on to find the load on your website. So how many, if you want to check the traffic, obviously you can check in this way, right? It will be moving on as such, right? So if I just refresh this, let us say I'm making it some 53 requests. If I go here, if I refresh, this will give me 54th request. That is how the application works, right? Where the doer will be creating a separate process, separate thread, where your service method will be getting a separate thread and it will be working as such. That is how the thing works. Now here, there is something which is a basic servlet which we have seen, where we are just requesting whenever we run this servlet directly, right? We are just seeing from here we are sending a response. Now the thing comes, so how can I call this method, this servlet from any HTML page? Let me create a HTML page now. I will see that part. So as I said, HTML page is something which is not a JSP content. It is a very plain vanilla HTML page, right? And it accepts all the HTML components whatever we have, and it all depends on which version of HTML you are using, right? Your Juno Eclipse Juno, right, will support you till HTML 4th version. Anyways, HTML5 is out. Some components of HTML5 is also supported by Juno, the latest package. If you are using Service Pack 2, it will be using your latest one. So let me create a simple HTML here. You can see your HTML5 here. Right. Let us say I'm using some index of HTML, or you can just say enter. Now you can see I've got a simple HTML. Right. If you create any HTML, right, you can see by default you get the body tag and all everything. Now here doc type is something which is a main tag attribute in tag in HTML where you can actually mention which HTML version you are going to use, so that because why this is needed, why do we need this is so different browsers may support different HTML types, right? Your Chrome and the latest one is HTML5. Your Chrome is the first ever browser which supports completely HTML5, and the second latest browser is Mozilla. These two supports complete HTML5 as such. But as of now in market, IE is still even IE10 is basically developed to support HTML5, but yes, there are so many issues in that, and I hope they are working on that. But yes, you can, if you want to design anything on HTML5, you can just use the Chrome to develop. That's why I'm just using my I always use Mozilla, and that 22nd version which completely supports HTML5, right? Now, so these are very simple page created. Now, the main theme here is how can I call a servlet from a page? That's what we have. Now here, so we have some HTML tags called form. You have a tag called form here. Now this is something which is used to call this from one resource. So I'm in HTML, maybe I'm in one page. So one page to other page, if you want to go from one page to other page, you can use form, right? Or one page to other servlet, you can use this. Now in this context, right, the action is nothing but the resource where you want to go. As of now, I want to go to my servlet. Now, so I'll be taking my servlet name, right, and just paste it over here. And after this, you have something called method tag. Now you can see method tag by default it will be get. Even if you don't do anything, if you directly go and hit your get method, do get method of your servlet, right? If you want to mention exclusion, you can mention this. Or if you mention post, right, it will go to the method called do post. You'll also see that part, right? That is what is this. Now in this, what you have to do is this form will not take you to servlet, right? So you have to do something called, you have to create some submit button, which is input. This is completely same for all. If you're using form, which means you should have input type called submit. I hope some of you guys who know HTML will be doing this. So this is something where I'm using form tag inside my, you can see it's a basic HTML start and end, head start and end, your body start and end. I'm writing my form tag inside my this body tag, right? The type is submit, and let us say you have a value which is, let us say I'm saying go. Now I just say I'm in let's say welcome, please click to go. Okay? I can just use this part and just say one break, which means I'm just saying that yes, there is a page, and if you want to go, please click. Right? So when I click on this, I will be going to my server. Now here, this is my HTML page being created. Now, it's a new resource I've created. So when I create a new resource, I'm going to change config, right? Just restart a prompt there. Basically, you don't have to do that, because your HTML or your Tomcat will, whatever you do, some changes will come, your Tomcat will take those resources and will deploy automatically. In Eclipse, I'm saying, not in not in servers, you have to do it manually, right? Now here, let me run this up. So if I want to run this, you can see here, this is my context, main context. Servlets is my project, right? Now here, whatever resource you want to go, you can just type it. Let us say I'm doing something called index.html. Now you can see, welcome, please click to go. Now I'm in index.html. When I click on this, now you can see it went to my server, right? So it is in servlet 1, and why it is, oh, we did post, right, and we haven't written anything in do post. That's why it is not given. Let me just take it as get here, right? Let us take it as get, so that we have written part of code in do get. That's why we have to go to get. Let's go back here and just say index.html, right? When I click on this, now you can see hello world, the same thing. Now let's go back to the same browser, second browser here. Now let me call. Now here, see, if I don't even give anything there, and if you go to the same page, right? You can see I'm not giving any URL, but if you go to the same thing. Now why this is, now this is the time where you have to understand something called the config file, which is web.xml. Right? This web.xml is also called as a deployment descriptor of the complete project. Deployment descriptor in the sense, it will describe your project in certain way. Right? You may not be mentioning everything, but here when you go to this web.xml, you can see here there is something called welcome file. Don't worry about this servlet, we'll come to this part later. But whenever you create a web application, only this will be there. Only welcome file is. Now you can see there are so many welcome files, index.html, index.html. As I am more interested in HTML now, so I created that and I can remove all these things. Which means if you just call this project name here, project name in the sense, if you just call this part, tell this, you have a URL, you can see localhost colon 49, this is my port or on which my current project is running, and the context project name is the servlets, and just remove, just leave it. Now you can see it will directly go to your HTML page, index.html. Now who is taking care of that is your web.xml, because web.xml have got what is a welcome file. Welcome file is nothing but a startup page, right? Startup page where you want to go. As of now, my startup page index. You can do anything. It is not only index. You can just say ABC or HTML. That's fine. And when you create that ABC or HTML, and when you run that, it will go to that part of your page. That is what it is. But yes, we'll be learning more on this web.xml. As of now, don't worry about that. Right? We'll be learning more on what exactly we have in web.xml. We have to learn this deployment descriptor for servlets. We have to learn that for JSPs and all. But as of now, just right. So this was my first page of servlet, and when I go to IE, right, from here you can see. Now let's compare these two. Right. When I click here, it will go and says current request 2. When I click here again, you can see it says 3 again. Let's go back again. Click. Right. So even if you are coming from some other resource, right? Initially we were actually directly triggering on this servlet, but as of now what we are doing, from one resource or page, we are trying to get into the servlet. Even then, you can see the init method is being called only once, and the doGet, which in turn will call service method, right, is called multiple times whenever we get a request. Right? So that is how the basic servlet works. Any doubts here, guys? Hello? Okay, so that is what. Okay, perfect. Right now here, I said you have just designed something called. You are not moving from servlet to some other page. We will be doing that. We'll be doing that in upcoming classes, because as of now, we have just seen a very simple servlet, how to create that and how to actually keep that in. Anyways, whatever methods you want, you can just keep. If you don't want anything, just remove them, right? That's right. And whatever methods you want, you can just keep them, and yes. And in a project, you can create any number of servlets. There is no limit. You can create any number of servlets, but each and every servlet will be having this life cycle. If you have 10 different servlets, which means whenever any servlet is called, right, this life cycle will be automatically created in that servlet. And which is making that possible is your Tomcat server, because Tomcat server is something which is providing web container or servlet container, right? All your servlets work on that, right? That is being supported. That's why you are able to see something which you can see the counters. I mean, this is how the container works, right? That's why the request and response part in
So, but we didn't use the destroy method here in the servlet, right? When we created the servlet?
Yeah, we didn't use, in the sense whenever you destroy something, right? I can use that destroy method, which is a direct method without any attachment. I didn't use because So destroy method will be called when.
So it is not necessary to include it, right?
No.
When we are writing servlet.
No. You can actually remove everything because I'm extending the class, right? Extending class in the sense you can see something.
The superclass might be having.
No. You can just remove everything, right? You can just keep one simple token. That's it. This is also called. Because you are actually extending class, which means you have got all the services, whatever you want, you can just use that, right? But yes, internally, the destroy method, everything will be called internal to the servlet because the servlet is extending the servlet class, right? Internally. So obviously, HTTP servlet will call the service method, the internal servlet method where your destroy components will be called. Anyways, it will be called. But now here, why do we use this init and destroy is, let us say, whenever you actually start your application, right, you want to create some database connection. Right? You have created your database connection in init, let us say, right? And every time you call for a request, right, your service method is calling, and it is usually saying database connection for getting details. And once you are actually shutting down your application, which means in destroy, will close that database. That is how it works. If you want to do something, then you can override. If you don't want to do any of those things, you can just skip that out, right? That is how it works. Okay. Fine. So that is what is your, a simple servlet, right? So now we will be moving on with multiple concepts of servlet now. Yeah?
Srinath, if destroy method is called instead of do paste or do post only destroy, then what happens exactly? Can you show us?
From where you are saying you are talking about from some other page here?
Or servlet one also, right?
Okay, you mean only destroy, which means there is nothing which will happen, right? You mean only you want to call this method, right? Am I right?
That was the question. So
see, which means you are not actually doing any action here. You are just calling a destroy, which means even if you call it or not, doesn't matter. Now you can see here. When I refresh this, let me just restart this. Right? You can see the get method is not there, right? I'm sorry. Your get method is not there because it will search for something called service first. First it will search for service. Anyways, the init method we called, but in order to call the service, it has to get the request, right? The service request will be received only by either your do get, do post, and do trace or not. If you don't write those methods, right, obviously there is no meaning in going to the next level, right? That's why it will just skip that. Which means
and if you call
index.html. If you call
from index.html.
No, from index.html you can call only HTTP direct method, which are protected methods here, which are do get and do post. These are something which are HTTP direct methods. You have to call only those methods, right?
Okay. So the answer will be that nothing will happen, right? If you call the destroy method directly.
The answer will be like, you have to use either of do get or do post to actually, even if you don't want to do, don't do it, but you have to call a service method, right? Until unless you go into this life cycle of service, you cannot go to this. Am I right?
Okay.
In order to go to this, you have to use either of your HTTP methods like do get or do post.
So instead of inside of do get, can we call the destroy instead of in do get?
You want to call destroy from here?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that, but that is the meaning will be collapsed, right? The meaning of do get is something you have to do something, even if you don't call or even if you call, destroy method will be called anyways.
Okay, so is there any real-time scenario where we have to call the destroy method?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, if you are using some init method, let us say, right? Let me just control this so that you guys will be using this up, right? Okay. See, let us say you have init. I said you have init, right? In the same way, you will be having destroy. Am I right? The real-time scenario will be like this. Let us say whenever you are actually making your web application up, right? So you want to create a database connection or any file connection only once. right? We'll be using init. Now, let us say whenever you are shutting your application down, then you want to close all the database connections and file connections, right? Then you can do that in your destroy method. That is what it happens.
Okay.
But here, why I haven't written here is, see, if I write something called system.sys out of, I mean destroy, right? Right? You have, and in destroy, right? So you have to, run this in order to print this, right? But when I'm doing this, whenever I'm shutting it down, then I said this method will be called, which means I can't print this up. Am I right?
Right.
That is why I haven't shown this up. But yes, in real time, in order to create connections and destroy connections, you can use init and destroy. That is where we use basically. It all depends on the requirement what we have, right?
Okay.
Okay, so are you using anything like this in your project? Maybe you can just give me use case so that I can explain you where you can actually use this init and destroy. Yeah?
Not really. I haven't used it.
Yeah, because this destroy is something, see, in each and every servlet, right, whatever servlets we will be creating, right, each and every servlet, these things will be continuing. But we will be working mainly with the main methods, HTTP methods called the do get or do post, or, yeah, basically these two, right? So, yep, you can call them. So, in the same way, see, we have do post, right? Let me copy the same thing in do post, right? And here, let me call the post method. Right? I've called this post method. Let me stop the server and restart the server. Right? You can see that the application will work in the same way. Something has happened to my browser. Hello?
Just try, remove the super the method so that I think those will work.
Remove the
Super dot, super dot SL.
is this one, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think this should work.
I mean, this will display, you mean to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
I don't think, okay, let us see that. Let me just open this up first. Okay. So this is my index, so let me keep on go. Now you can see a new method, right? So let me just, so this was our do post. If you remember, let me write something on this. This is out of in do get. And in this case, I'll just say in do post. Right? Let me restart my server now. Server started. Now let's go back to the page. Okay, so when I click on this, you can see I'm in init method. It will be called only once, and I'm in do post. Right? If I refresh this, you can see do post. Do post again. Do post again.
Okay.
Right? So continuously it is showing do post. That's it, right? Now here, now let's kill this up. Killing is nothing but you are actually doing stop, right? When I stop this, can you see? When I stop this, right? It directly stop my server, right? Which means it directly stop this server. Am I right? So this server destroy method will be, you have to do two things. Either you have to handle this in a way that when you stop you are triggering something, or you have to wait till your server gets down. Right? Server gets down will be set in your Tomcat for some time or some period. If you don't get any request, right, your server will automatically get down. Maybe you have to wait till that time, right, when where your desktop will be called. But actually you have to call this file, because why you have to call
No, actually, that's a new method in HTTP servlet, right?
Yeah.
And I've heard that HTTP servlet, it follows a template method pattern. There are non-numbered and HTTP method returns HTTP 4.405 error. Method not supported. So you should not override those methods. That's what I heard. So in the previous example also, you have created my first servlet, right? There also, if you remove that super method, I think that's gonna work.
You mean this method?
Yeah, the previous servlet which you have created and then you have created another servlet, right?
Yeah. You mean to say I have to remove
There
this?
also, there also, if you remove the super dot do request, do get.
Okay.
Yeah, super dot do get. Hopefully that should work.
You don't want me to call this one because we have changed something in here actually. In this servlet, we have changed something. Okay, let me just try out. Yeah, that was something which is good version. Let me just run that. I'm in Duket. Okay. Actually, how we got that Duket? How we got it? Now, how we got the servlet here? How we got that method here? I created a servlet, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. But how we got those methods? Okay.
I'm not sure that's what I mean. How Eclipse gave the super method, but super methods are not supposed to call Windows methods.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. When I create this, right? Now see here. Okay, did I call that super method?
No, you didn't call it. That's what I pinged you to remove the super
I
method.
just see that. Okay. I didn't notice that. Oh, it is calling. Because the servlet method, whenever you are overriding that, it should be a complete normal servlet method. Okay. I understood.
Use super method.
No, I understood how we got this. You know how we got this one? I'll tell you. So initially when we created this servlet, right, we got the direct method. But I removed them.
Yeah.
Just to show you, I just said Duket. You remember this? Okay, this is what it included the super. Okay, I got that. But you should not use it. I got it. I would have kept this default. If you override this, right, obviously it will include this, right? But basically, whenever you create a direct servlet from Eclipse, it will not include the super. Yeah. I forgot to remove this, guys. Oh, don't worry. Thanks, Sai. Thank you for that. Fine. Okay, because it is internally calling again Duket of my super, right? Where there will be something else, right? That's why. Okay, fine. Fine then. So that is what it is. Keep on towards side. This. Okay. So whenever I share this, maybe you can just go through this. Fine. Fine then, guys. So let us wind up here.